After months of quite very bad days for the entire American economy, today was noticeably not as economically hopeless. By now we know what it means and how it feels when the red arrow points down in the corner of the TV screen all day. Generally speaking, for the last few months, that has meant that the stock market is open for business. But what does it mean when the arrow is going the other way? It's up and it's green? Well, today, the Dow Jones Industrials, the sometimes economically misleading but always emotionally leading indicator of our economy, it shot right up 379 points. Good, right? Well, that big jump, almost 6%, is understood to be the result of a pep-talky memo from Citigroup's chief executive to the firm's employees. The memo said the thrice bailed out, formerly impressive, now withered banking giant is having its best profit outlook for any quarter since 2007. Upon that news landing, Citigroup stock jumped 38%. 38% jump. It's now worth $1.45. Which as an absolute value for a stock price is really not all that impressive. Wasn't it up over like $50 not that long ago? In any case, yay for the stock market today. That green arrow sure beats the now relentless alternative of seeing red and feeling financially blue all day. And then there was also the less easily illustrated, but also good news about the economic recovery today. Now, this stuff is worth understanding because it's really the heart and soul of whether or not we are going to fix this in a way that ensures that it does not happen again. First, Barney Frank, chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, said that the rule to slow down the pace of short selling, which is known as the SEC's uptick rule, that will be restored in about a month. Short selling is essentially betting on a stock to fall. And if that is unregulated, it can make stocks fall really, really, really fast. So the uptick rule, in theory, puts sort of a cooling rod in place to prevent meltdowns. The feeling that you're having right now is that you're remembering what regulation is for. Regulation is to keep things in the financial world from going nuts and eating our children's futures. Yes, regulation. And Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke today said that the nation's financial regulatory system is in need of a major overhaul.
I do think that this crisis has revealed some rather shocking gaps in our regulatory oversight. I mean, who was overseeing the subprime lenders, for example? Who was overseeing AIG? There simply wasn't enough adequate oversight in those cases.
Not enough adequate oversight. Why does that matter that Ben Bernanke said that? Well, it's an important signal that there isn't going to be a big fight among all the various economic titans in Washington when it comes to reinstating the rules, the regulations, the oversight that used to prevent things like we're going through now from happening. And further to the maybe we are learning some lessons here news of the day, Senators Dick Durbin of Illinois and Chuck Schumer of New York proposed a new consumer watchdog-y agency. You know the Consumer Product Safety Commission? That's the safety commission that says, hey, you can't actually have lawn darts anymore. You can't paint your toys with lead paint. You can't sell vacuum cleaners that double as flamethrowers. They have proposed now a Financial Product Safety Commission as well. The Financial Product Safety Commission would say, hey, you can't sell a mortgage that doubles as a financial flamethrower. Hey, you can't sell a credit card that inevitably puts its user in debtor's prison. It may be dumb to get all excited about one good day in the stock market, but maybe it's smart to get excited about fixing the financial system so it gets less inherently dangerous to us, the American people. Joining us now is Elizabeth Warren, chair of the Congressional Oversight Panel, which is responsible for overseeing the execution of the $700 billion in TARP funds. She's also a law professor at Harvard. Professor Warren, thank you for coming back on the show.
Glad to be here.
Is there any chance at all that Citigroup's reported profitability and this bounce in the stock market today is a symptom that something is working, that maybe the TARP program is working?
There's a lot of volatility. Things go up, things go down. We've been watching this for a long time. I have to tell you, was there a time when we thought we'd be celebrating that the stock market almost made it to 7,000 today? Look, I don't want to be a wet blanket at this party. I was glad to see green arrows today, but I think we just have to wait and see a little.
What do you think will be the first signs that the TARP program that you're overseeing, what do you think will be the first signs that it's working?
Well, one of the first signs may come from Citibank, but from a very different place, and that is when these credit card companies decide that they're not going to keep jerking up interest rates or trying to cancel out lines of credit on the people who have paid their bills on time and completely abided by the rules. You know, when they decide that maybe those people will have other options and could actually leave them. When small businesses can get credit and keep their businesses up and running. But, you know, I want to put it this way because I think it's important. It's not about the $700 billion and where we watch it go through. It's whether or not Treasury uses the $700 billion to beat some sense back into the banks and back into the financial system overall. There's a real question out here. Are we just taking the money and shoveling it into a hole? Or are we really using that money to say, banks, you got to get honest in your books. We've really got to hit bottom on where this where your financial position is. Decide who's going to be saved, who's not. Work this through, and really have a strategy and a plan going forward. This is $700 billion to spend, and we've really got to decide how to spend it wisely, and that's got to be clearly articulated by our Treasury Department.
It does also seem like because we're doing this huge government program, we have a huge amount of both leverage and responsibility as the public, as our government representing the public, to get this done right. And that's why I was struck by something that Sheila Bair, the head of the FDIC, told 60 Minutes on Sunday. She said Congress should consider if it is time to stop banks from becoming too big to fail. Essentially preventing banks from exceeding the threshold so that their failure would propose a systemic risk to the economy. Controlling the size of banks. Do you think that makes sense?
I think it not only makes sense, it's absolutely essential. You know, you just talked about it. These are the two ends of the continuum. At the top end, we're saying, if it's too big to fail, then break it apart so you can let it fail. We cannot be in a position where the American taxpayer is essentially the implicit insurer for anyone who gets big and complicated and can't be regulated. That just can't be how we run our economy. If we do, then the taxpayer is hostage to every large institution in America. But the other end of the financial re-regulation is also critical. I was delighted to hear that you were talking about Senator Durbin and Senator Schumer and Senator Kennedy's amendment introduced today, so that we say the front end of this process, we've got to have some kind of control over the kind of financial products that get introduced into this system, because they're creating their own economic instability all the way up the line. This is about the decisions we're going to make over really the next 6 months or so are going to be the decisions about how the shape of our financial future will go really for the next 50 years. I mean, this is it. All the marbles are on the table. It's not just about the bailout right now. It's really about how we decide we're going to shape our country, our economy, our whole future.
I think politically we haven't yet grasped, at least the political class hasn't yet grasped that the next big fight, yeah, maybe there's going to be a big fight over EFCA and maybe there's going to be a big fight over health care, but it's a complete re-regulation of the financial system, a complete restructuring of the financial system like we haven't seen since the 30s. I have one last question for you on the bailout. I have had a burr in my saddle over AIG. 160 billion bailout dollars thus far. We don't necessarily know where it's going. And there's two issues. They do seem to be passing the money they're getting through to other financial institutions that they had dealings with. And we're also hearing that they've got like 4 PR firms on the payroll now whose job is to spin us on how we feel about them. Do those uses of the bailout money seem strange to you, or does that seem predictable?
You know, it doesn't seem strange to me, and the fact that it doesn't seem strange to me tells you something really awful about what it's been like to be in Washington for the last few months. These financial institutions have figured out that they are bleeding red ink, and their best solution is to persuade the Treasury Department to give them lots of money. And when the Treasury Department starts to say, you know, there may be some problems here, the American people don't want to go along with this, then let's see if we can spend the American people on it. The Treasury Department has not asked for the critical information about where this money has gone from AIG. You know, we've poured the money into AIG, and it is somehow poured out the other end. the Treasury Department has not asked and has not revealed what it is that's happening with that money. And so long as that's the case, maybe some of the money is going to other financial institutions. Maybe some of the money is going to pay off in these credit default swaps that are essential for saving other institutions that have counted on it for credit insurance. And maybe where this money is going is just off to speculators who just played the game of speculation and would now like to collect 100 cents on the dollar for their speculations and collect it indirectly from the American taxpayer.
Well, I will allow that to constitute the invitation to both Secretary Geithner of the Treasury and to any senior executives from AIG to come on this show and answer those charges, because I think they need to be answered. Elizabeth Warren, chair of the Congressional Oversight Panel, professor at Harvard Law School, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.